Hello, welcome to JenPenCreations. I'm Jen. Today, I want to talk about paranormal activity, and not just anybody's paranormal activity, not just any weird random story off the internet. I want to talk about my own personal experiences with it. I grew up in the Midwest, which for a very long time in this country was the Wild West. And where I grew up has a lot of history, and I've experienced a lot of stuff. And I don't know if it was just my wild imagination running free because I was a very imaginative child, or if I really experienced something. So hang out with me today, stick around, and I'll get right to it. I'd like to start out just telling you about me and who I am, because you kind of have to have that basis in order to understand really whether or not this was all in my head, or if I really experienced something. Like, I don't know, it could have just been all in my imagination. I don't know. So let's start with me as a child. I was very smart. I was pretty bright, but I was super flighty, very imaginative, and in my own head most of the time. I still enjoy just sitting, and a lot of times I am in my own world, lost in a conversation that either happened many, many, many years ago or one that's never happened. Just some speculative something in my head. I live inside my head a lot. I did as a child a whole lot. I don't do so much as an adult as I did as a child, but I still feel like I live in my head a whole lot as an adult too. As a kid, I enjoyed being lost in my imagination and going on adventures and going through mazes and secret gardens, and we'll get into that too because I read books, and the secret garden I really loved. I remember finding an old skeleton key. I found it buried in the backyard. I was back there playing with my Barbies or something, because I'll tell you, I played a lot of Barbie dolls when I was a kid. Barbies were my thing. So I was back there messing around, digging around in the backyard, maybe making hills or holes or something, someplace. Maybe I was digging out a home or something for my Barbie to live in. I don't know, but I found a skeleton key. And it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my short little life. I do believe I had to have been about 7 or 8 years old. My mom bought the house that she's in, and she bought it back in 1988, about a month before I turned 7. So I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, maybe 9 when I dug up this key, but I'm pretty sure it was early on, so it was about 7 or 8. And I remember being so excited about this key because I read about old ornate keys being able to open secret gates to secret gardens and just cool, fun stuff that I was very interested in. I loved anything that had to do with fantasy, and just obviously I played Barbies. I loved role-playing anything, any kind of role-playing situation, any kind of fantasy thing going on where I could just jump into a whole new world of things, and I was excited. So I took my key and I took it to my next door neighbor. Now, the old lady who lived next door, she's been dead for a very long time. Her name was Martha, and I loved her. She was my favorite person for a very long time. And she was like my bestest friend. That wasn't like the little girl across the street who I spent the night with sometimes and played Barbies with. Like, I mean, Martha was my best friend. I spent a lot of time with her at her house, listening to her tell me stories, and all I would have to do is ask her about something, and she had the most amazing things to say about it. I just loved her so much. She told me that she was a writer and that she wrote books, so I'm gonna have to look her up and find out. That might be an update. I'm not sure. But I'll have to look it up and find out. I've never actually looked her up to see what kind of books she wrote. She told me all kinds of amazing things. When I showed her my key, she told me that that was the key to the house that we lived in, that I lived in, my mom's house. I was like, what? I was so excited that this was the key to the house. And then I tried it in the door lock and it didn't work. And she's like, no, not that one. You have to use it in the old lock. I'm like, oh, that one that looks like there's nothing in there, that it wouldn't do anything? She's like, yeah, that one. You can look through that lock, but there is a mechanism in there that will lock and unlock your doors. I was able to lock the back door with the skeleton key. It was so awesome. So then I was so excited. I went back to Martha and I told her, hey, I got to lock and unlock the back door. It worked. She's like, yeah, that key goes to every single door in your house that has one of those old keyways. I was so excited. So I went back inside and I tried it in the attic door and it worked. And I tried it in the bathroom door and it worked. It was so fantastic. I was so excited. But my imagination always ran off with me, and I used to use it to go to secret gardens and open secret doors to magnificent lands or different dimensions, or my Barbies could go to space through one of these doors. It was really cool. I had a lot of stories going on in my head. So, baseline of who I was as a kid. Very much living my own thing in my head, fantasy playing something else all the time. So I'm gonna start with my dreams. My family first moved into the house that my mother still lives in. I was very young. I was 6, gonna be 7 in a month. And me and my sisters shared one of the 2 bedrooms in the house. It was a 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom. It had a basement, but the basement was just all open concrete. A big weird table built in the back of it. Like, the table was built down there, so you can't actually get it out unless you saw it in pieces. Take it apart, I guess. There's also way in the back on the left side, just back in the back of the basement, is the coal room. The house still has a coal chute that leads from the outside in the garage, or no, from the outside in the driveway, not in the garage. The garage is detached from the house. It's a separate structure at the end of the driveway. But there's a coal chute that opens up to a spot in the driveway where the coal truck could back up to it and dump coal down into the coal chute, and it lands into the coal room, which is still there in the basement, full of coal. Well, it's not full of coal, but there's still coal in that basement in the coal room. The heater, the big giant heater in the middle of the whole room, it was just this big huge heater that had all these pipes that came off it in all different directions. Is like a big spider looking heater. I'm pretty sure the pipes themselves were wrapped in asbestos. Pretty sure. That was the insulation of the time. I think when that coal furnace, because it still looks like a coal burning furnace, however, it has been converted to gas. Martha told me she lived in her house. She said that her family moved into her house next door where she was living in 1919. So I can't remember what year she actually told me when the furnace was switched over, but it was switched over at some point to gas burning furnace. To a gas burning furnace, which is what it currently is today. So me and my sisters shared the bedroom that also had the door to the attic. There were 2 bedrooms. So you walked in the front door and there was the living room. Off of the living room was a bedroom. And then there was a bathroom that separated the other bedroom from the living room. You walked into the dining room. Off the dining room was the other bedroom. So it was like a big square. Like the living room was here, the dining room was here, the two bedrooms were over here, and a bathroom in the middle. And then at the end was the kitchen. And the kitchen was added on later. Actually, Martha had pictures of my mom's house before the kitchen was added on. And when the basement stairs were just a cellar door outside. It was like a root cellar or something. But the kitchen was added on, and the basement doors, the cellar door got enclosed into a back porch area, which is what it was when my mom and my dad bought the house back in 1988. Me and my sisters shared the room that had the stairs that had the stairs to the attic in it. The bedroom off of the dining room. Yeah, because my mom and dad were in the bedroom off the living room, the front bedroom, and we were in the back bedroom that was off of the dining room, but it had the stairs, like the door to the attic stairs was in our room. And it was always cold, always, because the cold air would flow down the stairs from the attic and kind of seep through the cracks of that door. Because it was an old rickety door. I mean, like I said, I used that awesome skeleton key I found to open the attic, to lock and unlock the attic door. It was fun. I I enjoyed it until I lost the key somewhere. I don't have a clue even where or how it went away, but it did somehow. But I had a lot of fun adventures with it, let's say. But it was a very old door. Used a skeleton key to lock and unlock. When we first moved in, we were moving boxes and stuff to the attic. And we would go up there. There's a light switch down at the bottom of the stairs. Thank God, because I am a person that needs to turn the light on before I go up into an attic or down into a basement. I just need a light on first, okay? I do. For my own psyche. A box could jump out and bite my leg or something. I don't know. So, I always like to turn the light on downstairs, down at the bottom of the stairs before I go up. You go up the stairs. It was pretty narrow stairway. Stairs were wooden and all creaky. So you go up the stairs, and you creak, creak, creak all the way up. And I'm going up there to bring boxes up there. And you see this, like, carpet everywhere. This weird carpet. It's not like laid right or anything. It's just like carpet pieces laid all over the floor and not even in any particular manner. Some overlapping others, and they're just spread all over the attic floor. Now, you can also see over on the other side of the attic where the kitchen was added onto the house, because there's not attic there. There's a big hole in the attic wall right there, and then if you look in there, it's all black and dark. And you shine a flashlight, which we've shined flashlights in there because, I mean, curious. So shine a flashlight in there, and it's just a bunch of empty floorboards, and like it's not even finished floor. It's like, oh, and getting to that hole in the attic wall there, you have to walk on rafters, because if you step on the floor, that's actually the ceiling from downstairs. And you could fall through the floor. So you walk on the beams, the rafter beams, to get back there, and you can shine your flashlight back there, and all you see is more rafter beams and stuff. My cats used to go back there. I bet there's a bunch of cat shit back there. I'm sure there's a bunch of cat shit back there. But as a child with a wild imagination, I imagined all kinds of stupid shit back there. But what really caught my eye, other than the carpet pieces all over the place, the half of the attic floor not even being completed, and there's an old bed all the way in the back, and it's like a queen size bed, but it's old and it's rickety, and I don't know what it's from or why it's there or who slept on it last. I don't know. In the middle of the pile of carpet, you see like this petrified pile of dog poop, and you're like, what the heck? And it looks like it's from a pretty big dog. And I was like, what? And that was just us going upstairs to put boxes up there. And there was also a bat flying around the attic as soon as we turned the light on up there. So, I mean, I don't know how long it had been living there. Probably a while. Who knows? But we saw that pile of dog poop on a square of carpet, and we just kind of took the carpet and threw it all away and just cleaned out the attic and stuff. For some reason, that bed never got thrown out. I have a feeling it's still in my mom's attic. That old rickety bed that was there when we first moved in. Kind of weird. I've got a story about that too that we might get to, but it's a Ouija board story. Kind of interesting. But going back to the dreams, you needed to know about that pile of petrified dog poop on that piece of carpet because my dreams surrounded that. For some reason, like the first 5 or 6 years that we lived in that house, I had recurring dreams. The same recurring dream over and over and over and over and over of a boy about my age, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, him and his dog dying in a fire in an attic in our house. Now, that wigged me out when we first moved in. And when we first moved in, that was before I knew Martha. I did not talk to her about the dreams or any of that. But one night I had this dream and I couldn't even go back to sleep because every time I would close my eyes, it would be fire all around me. And it just was so intense. So after school that day, I went over to Martha's and asked her when there was a fire in the attic of our house and who was the boy that died. And she looked at me like I was crazy. She's lived in her house since 1919, mind you. And she's like, there's never been a fire in that house. Not ever. There's never been a fire in that house. Well, there's never been a fire in that house during the time that she lived next door. I don't know if there was a fire in that house before that. I did find out that the house was built in the mid-1850s, which means there were a lot of years that house could have had a fire, that Martha didn't live there. But why would the dog poops be on the carpet? I never understood that, how it could still be there in 1988. Like, it just, to me, just doesn't seem to make sense. You know what I mean? Why it would still be there in 1988? Or if some other dog just took a shit up there and it just, like, triggered some weird memory. However, I was upstairs organizing boxes and going through one of our boxes of toys or something. And I happened to stand up. And as I stood up, I used the rafters as like something to hold on to stand myself up or whatever, hang on, push on it or whatever. And as I pulled my hand away, I looked at my hand and it was black. It was like covered in soot. And I looked at the rafter that I just touched, and it was charred all the way up to the center beam in the ceiling. Yeah, there's no insulation or walls or anything built in the attic. It's just rafters and the beam, the main beam and the rafters, and then the whatever boards and and the roofing. That's all it is. So that's why the cold air would come through the door into our bedroom. But when I touched those rafters and I felt soot, that was when I asked Martha, please tell me there was a fire in our attic. And she told me, no, there was never a fire in that house. Not as long as she has lived there. So whatever records, if they even kept records back, like, I mean, shoot, the house could have been built in like 1851 and burnt down in 1852 and was rebuilt in 1853. And then no records were ever kept of it. Like, I mean, that could happen. I don't know. I just know that there was a fire in that house because that one wasn't the only rafter beam that's charred in the attic of my mom's house. There's several, actually a lot of the rafter beams, because back then, just because it was charred didn't mean it damaged the integrity of the wood. And it was still able to hold the house up and hold the roof up, I mean. So, I don't know. But I had this recurring dream of this little boy getting stuck in the attic with his dog in a fire. For like 6 years after we moved into that house. It was pretty crazy. So, I hope you enjoyed my first episode of my paranormal experiences series. It's definitely going to be one story at a time, considering how long each story is going to take, just to let you take it in a little bit. Let me know what you think. Did I really experience something? Did I not? Was it just a figment of my own imagination that likes to run wild? Who knows? I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, boop the like button. It would help. If you like hanging out with me, consider subscribing. I really enjoy my time talking to you, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Go out and do something for you and for someone you love today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.